Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Dr. Carmen McGuinness, and on this channel we discuss relationships of all sorts, including what I call the primary relationship, which is the relationship that we have with ourselves. So this week we are going to talk about surviving enmeshment. That's my topic for the week, and it follows on to last Sunday's segment. Last Sunday I discussed the fantasy bond in adult relationships. The fantasy bond is similar to enmeshment. And if the term fantasy bond or enmeshment are new to you, I suggest that you view last week's segment before viewing today. And here's a link. I'll put it up above for you, this side, wherever it appears. Click on that and just view that before you watch this segment if you are not familiar with either of the terms fantasy bond or enmeshment. So the current segment, today's segment, will help you further understand enmeshment. Although the content is crafted primarily for adult romantic partners, much of the information that I'm about to share with you can be modified and applied to adults who are dealing with a parent or an adult child, or in a friendship relationship where they believe that enmeshment is participating in the relationship. So if you're viewing this, you probably suspect you're involved in or have been involved in or fear you are entering into a relationship in which the parties become enmeshed. Today, I hope to give you some information that might help you begin to answer the question, do I need to escape this relationship, try to heal the relationship, or should we together seek counseling? Although there are probably more, today I'm going to address 3 contingencies or scenarios that might occur in enmeshment and offer you some advice for how to proceed in each of these contingencies. The first is when your partner is enmeshed. So this is when you have realized that your partner is leaning on you too much. By this I mean that he or she relies on you to do the bulk of the work involved in the relationship, and even in life in general, and that he or she agrees with you on absolutely every topic. It's like the words that come out of your mouth are just pearls. Basically, you are the adult and your partner is the child in this relationship. So that's the first scenario. Some examples are you're the family bill payer, cook, chauffeur, lawn maintenance person, housekeeper, shopper, etc. In this first contingency, you don't have an emotional payout. In other words, you're not also enmeshed in the relationship. You don't need to be needed in this way. You just do everything because somebody has to do it. It often feels like a burden, and you often feel it isn't fair, that it isn't equitable. So that's scenario 1. Scenario 2 is when you're enmeshed and your partner isn't. This one is going to be harder to spot because you're the one who's in trouble. But it is possible to spot and heal from this if you realize you're leaning on your partner too much, that you're being the child in the relationship rather than the other adult. But before you decide your partner isn't also enmeshed, ask yourself the question, is he or she getting something out of my dependency upon them? We'll talk about what that might be in the next scenario, which is when you're both enmeshed going forward. But in this scenario, the second one, when it's just you, you're also likely to be fearful. You're also likely to frequently feel afraid that you might lose your partner, or that your partner might somehow separate his or her boundaries from you. So now on to the third scenario. In this scenario, when you're both enmeshed, one of you is the child in the relationship and the other is the willing parent. In other words, you both have a payoff of some sort. Some viewers might ask, what in the world is the payoff in being the adult? That's the hard part, right? Well, the adult gets to make all the decisions. The adult has control of all the money, has someone who agrees with him on all matters. The adult doesn't have to answer to the child. They don't have to answer to anyone, really. He or she is the decider. If he or she screws up, nobody has to know. They just have to explain it to themselves, to nobody else, cover up and move on, maintaining control the whole while, no matter how big the screw up. And sure, it's healthy to want control over your own life, fair enough, but when you do so in order to avoid sharing your life with another person, you really just take them on like kind of like property, like a new sofa. You don't have to ask for their opinion and decisions or to take it seriously if they do disagree, which they rarely will. You just plod on, almost as if you were single, but with a permanent full-time lover in your bed, cook in your kitchen, etc. Nanny, someone to raise the babies, or just a social partner, someone to take to the corporate Christmas party. So we see there are advantages to those who are control rather than intimacy oriented. Now, back to the original question. Do I need to escape the relationship, try to heal the relationship on my own? And how do I do that? Or should we seek counseling? So, signs you need to escape the relationship. You're not in love. That's a dead giveaway. And even as I speak the words, I know and understand that it's one of the most difficult questions to answer. Many people literally do not know if they actually love their partner. Some people don't know if they were ever in love. If you're not sure, seek counseling. That's definitely a sign for seeking counseling, rather than just leaving the relationship, because you might be in love. You kind of need to sort that out first. And I'll do a segment dedicated to the concept of whether or not I'm in love in the near future. That's a good idea. I'll make a note of that in a moment. Another sign is that you're in physical danger. You're the partner. These are signs that you should leave the relationship. Your partner is abusive. Always leave when you're in an abusive relationship. Just go. Figure out the rest later. So those are some signs for when you should just exit the relationship. And signs that the relationship can be healed. Let's talk about those. You've discussed the possibility of enmeshment with your partner. You maybe showed in my last video and this one. And he or she looked like they'd seen the light at the end of the tunnel and agreed that they want to explore this more with you. Or another sign is you've tried to do more or disagree with your partner if you're in the child scenario of this relationship. And you think you can. It feels a little bit more comfortable each time you try it, and you're working toward that. Another sign is that you should try to heal the relationship is that you've encouraged your partner to do more or to disagree if you're the parent in the relationship, and he is starting to catch on. Yay! So some signs that you need to seek counseling, that maybe this can't be healed alone and that seeking counseling would be beneficial. So this is usually the case when both of you are enmeshed, but it might also be the case if you believe that one of you is enmeshed. So you've discussed the possibility of enmeshment with your partner, and he or she just smiled and said, yes, dear, you'll feel better soon. In other words, they don't get it. They're not going to buy into this. Maybe you need counseling. Another sign is that you've tried to do more or disagree with your partner if you're in the child part in this relationship, but you can't seem to make yourself do it. It makes you feel afraid, possibly panicked by the thought of separating in this way. Another sign that you might need to seek counseling is that you've tried to do more or disagree, but your partner seems to want to keep control, or possibly your partner seemed to punish you in some way for doing this. Then yes, you might need to seek counseling. Another sign is you've tried to encourage your partner to do more or given them the opportunity to disagree if he or she is the child in the relationship, but they seem reluctant or just can't seem to catch on. Or the relationship has dramatically changed for the worse. And I won't even say for the worse, but let's just say it's dramatically changed since you tried any of these above scenarios. Then yes, you really might want to seek counseling. So in closing, I just want to say that intimacy isn't just the letting down of boundaries, the 50% plus 50% equals 100% model. It's more than that. Intimacy is the willingness to be more than who you are. It's the willingness to say, I'll bring my 100% and you bring your 100%. And sometimes we'll overlap and sometimes we won't. So through that, we will become more and we will understand one another and seek to allow that within what is our relationship. And of utmost importance, where we don't overlap, will be more than who we are, because we're two separate people living and loving together. So that's what I have for you today. I hope this has been helpful. I know that this is a rather deep topic. It required 2 videos because it's kind of like going down the rabbit's hole and don't always necessarily know where you're going to pop up. So that's why I wanted to do the first one and kind of describe what the fantasy bond is, and then talk about how you can maybe back out of these enmeshments that are involved in the fantasy bond. So I hope this has been helpful, and I hope you have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you for my midweek sneak peek this Wednesday. Until then, have a wonderful